you back in here today?
Well, I'm not sure, but I think I'm going crazy.
You think you're going crazy?
Yeah. I'm not sure. I just feel like I'm going crazy.
Well, what makes you feel like that?
It's this album I've been listening to.
Can you explain what you mean by that? Like, can you elaborate a little more on that?
What up, y'all? DCFAYGOGUY. Today we are reviewing the Lost Lake Estates album from Long Live Evil, Alla Xul Elu, super famous fun time guys. They're not collectively known as anything other than Long Live Evil. It's a very interesting new super group, if you will. This is a collaborative album from the label. Obviously, if you follow Long Live Evil or you don't, and you are wondering about SON, this album was recorded prior to him signing. He officially signed with Long Live Evil, I believe, at Camp Zool 3 this year. But this album was featuring super famous fun time guys and Alla Xul Elu, the label at the time that it was started recording. And the reason why I say that this isn't really like a super group, I don't feel like this is necessarily a super group. It doesn't have like an alternate name. It is them. It's Alla Xul Elu, super famous fun time guys, as themselves. So it, to me, is more like a label album. It's more like a collaborative album without being labeled as a super group. It's the best way that I can think to kind of compare it maybe is like Psychopathics from Outer Space, but they're all together on the same track. So it's kind of like Dark Lotus meets Psychopathics from Outer Space. This is the best way I can describe this album. But I want to jump into this. This album, absolutely fucking amazing. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. When this was first announced, when this was first teased, I was like, yo, this is going to be dope. When they announced Gods of Evil Rise, which is going to be the new Alla Xul Elu album, and when they announced I'll Tell You When I Want to Laugh by Laughing, which is going to be the new super famous Fun Time Guys album, I honestly was meeting their individual albums with more like excitement. Purely because I wasn't really sure what to expect. And that's in a good way. When this album dropped, blown completely away. First of all, the cover, absolutely fucking amazing. I do not have a physical copy yet. It has not come out. I decided to go ahead and drop this review rather than wait for the CD to come. The plan is when the CD comes, I'm going to do an unboxing, potentially play tracks then. I'm going to do more of like a track by track. I don't do these kind of reviews very often. This album really kind of deserves it. But this album to me, absolutely Dark Lotus vibes. I put out a preliminary review on my Instagram. I went on iTunes to show support and did a review there. I've made some bold statements about this album, and we will talk about that a little bit later. But this album absolutely gives me Dark Lotus vibes. A lot of people have shut that notion down. I don't think a lot of people have really kind of thought about it. And that's why I want to explain it a little bit more in depth here. But I want to go through the album first. Like I said, I've done this a few times before, but I don't do it very often. So what I did when I listened to the album, I took little notes, just kind of thoughts that I had about it. It's not going to be super in depth because I don't want it to be too terribly long, but just kind of go over and talk about like just thoughts on each of the tracks. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Inmates Run the. And I love the way that this kind of, when I first saw this track title, I was like, this is kind of like missing. Something feels missing. But when I was kind of putting my notes together, I was like, oh, it like runs together. So Inmates Run That is the intro. It is a great intro. It serves its purpose well, sets up the concept of what this album is, and introduces us to Alla Xul Elu and super famous Fun Time Guys. So the album opens up with you basically being brought into Lost Lake Estates, which is supposed to be an insane, that's a tongue twister, an insane asylum. And you're then taken to a room where you are introduced, or you see or meet the 5 individuals, which are Alla Xul Elu, super famous Fun Time Guys. They go through and introduce everybody, and then the album kicks off. Rhyme Asylum, and this is what I'm talking about with the track list. When you read through it, it's actually Inmates Run the Rhyme Asylum. If that's what they intended, cool. If that's not what they intended, still cool, because I like reading it in that way. Inmates Run the Rhyme Asylum. So, jumping into Rhyme Asylum, the opening track gets a great tone for the album. This is a group effort, and LLE are here, and the energy of this track is killer. The beat, everybody came in. You're in for a fucking ride at this point, right? Great fucking track. This was, if I remember correctly, this was the first single that was released with a video out. I honestly held off on watching it, or listening to it rather. It did come out with a music video as well. My plan was to do a reaction. I never got around to doing the reaction. I was like, I can't keep like not listening to this. So I listened to it and I was like, yo, this is dope. You know what I mean? I feel like listening to the single by itself versus listening to it in the album, whole different energy. I think having the intro set it up, it jumps into Rhyme Asylum to set the tone, really worked out really well. And then it goes into the next track and you just keep going on the onslaught. Listening to Rhyme Asylum by itself, it definitely didn't give me the hype that it gives me now. So it's a great opening track, again, setting the tone. Then we jump into Call Me Crazy. This song immediately slows down the vibe, but in a good way. The beat is haunting and builds to the theme of the album. You've stepped into Lost Lake Estates, where inmates run the Rhyme Asylum, and they're all crazy. So that was a note that I made again as I was going through, and I was like reading the track list. I was like, was this intentionally done like this? Like, is this kind of the story that they're putting? Inmates run the Rhyme Asylum, call them all crazy. Really loved it. Again, the beat, very haunting. I kind of love like the effects that are in there. It's really great. And I wish I could play you a clip real quick, but we're going to focus purely on just talking about the music. I'm excited to get the fucking CD. I've heard there's some exclusive stuff to it. I hope I didn't wait too long to pre-order it. You guys, I've talked on my channel a lot about slowing down on buying physical albums. As soon as I heard this, as soon as I watched Tuesday Night Terror where they were like doing a listening party, I left that listening party and went and ordered the fucking CD. I was like, this album is too amazing not to have. Again, it's Dark Lotus vibes. It's Tales from the Lotus Pod to me. We'll talk about that. We'll get to that. So we jump into the song Anthem. Here we start to break away from the theme. This track is exactly what it's titled. It's an anthem. That is Long Live Evil. To quote the chorus, this started off a dream. Now everybody screams Long Live Evil. This is where they enter the overall theme of this is a collab album. This is a label album. They are Long Live Evil. Love the track. One of the things I got to talk about, though, is at the end, there is a backmasked reverse message. I have gone and reversed that message. I didn't do it in any kind of special video. I didn't bring backwards back for it. It was something where the homie Chief Zooligan was asking about it, and I just happened to like be free at the moment. So I pulled up a screen recording, went to YouTube, recorded the end of it, took it into the editor, flipped it backwards, and put it in the Alla Xul Elu Discord server. So it's there. If I remember to put it in the video, I'll play it here. It's just a part of this the chorus reversed.
When you heard a random who it works on everybody on earth is cheating. You don't care about my man love. You got him by the hands.
And if you've ever watched backwards before, it's what I used to always refer to as a little bit of spice. It's just something that they put in there just to kind of add to the song. It's nothing, it's not like an important message that's going to have an Easter egg. It's just part of the chorus. Add a little bit of a spooky spice to the end of the song. So that is what that reverse message is. Just one part of the chorus. I don't remember specifically which one. So moving on to Kill 'Em With Kindness. This track gives the album the most meaning to me. Hearing Bill talk about how this song and album came about is what gives it the Dark Lotus vibe for me. What I mean by that, if you don't know, this song here was, the story was 8 and Billy Obey were snowed in at the Church of Zool. They were just kind of shooting the shit. And I think it was Legs came up and just like, they were just shooting the shit. And it was like, yo, you just got to kill him with kindness. The idea was sparked then to do the song. Like they were both like, yo, that would be a dope song. So that was kind of what gave birth to this album. And that energy right there of them bouncing an idea off of each other, building an album and building songs by bouncing it back and forth and like recording together and writing together. That right there is the Dark Lotus, Tales from Lotus Pod energy that I'm talking about. I think when a lot of people would hear me say that this is on the same level, they're like, nah, that was totally different. And I get that. Dark Lotus had a shit ton of hype behind it. It took years for them to kind of build it into what it was. And when it came out, it was just a phenomenal fucking splash in the Juggalo world. I'm not trying to say this is that, but I'm also not going to say this isn't that. I think there's a lot of people who are Zooligans, that are fans of Zool, that are fans of Super Famous Funtime Guys, that are fans of Long Live Evil. I feel like this album made a very big splash. I know it did for me. So this is on the same level. If you're not a fan, you're not going to get it in the same way that like a preppy, cool kid wasn't going to feel that about Dark Lotus. So if you hear me say that and you're just immediately like, nah, you got to think back to that. Like for Juggalos, Tales from Lotus Pod was huge. For Zooligans, this album is huge. So that's when I'm comparing the two. I'm not trying to say this album is better than Tales. I'm not trying to say this album is lyrically as good as Tales. I'm saying the energy behind this album is on that level. They are very similar to me. So that's what I'm talking about when I say that shit. So moving on to Median. Wait a minute. No, we're not moving on to Median. I didn't finish my thoughts. Back to Kill 'Em With Kindness. I love the idea of taking the expression kill them with kindness and making it a full-blown song about killing people with kindness. This song actually held my title for favorite track for a minute. Because it was an earworm. It was in my head constantly. I was singing it in my head. I was singing it. If you gotta kill him, then kill him with kindness. What? If you gotta kill him, then kill him with kindness. Just going about my day, that would be in my fucking head, you know? I would walk to the pace of that beat. So it held that title for a minute. All right, moving on to Midian. This song slows things down again on TNT the night of the album's after the night of the album's release. Bill talked about the movie Nightbreed and how watching that movie will make this song make more sense. I haven't watched it, but I looked up the plot. It's definitely something to add to my watch list. The movie, I mean, assuming it's on any of the streaming platforms I use. This song itself is a very dark. It's very dark and it's very fitting. So Midian, from what I read, if I'm remembering this correctly, I'm probably going to butcher it. If I am butchering it, correct me in the comments. But Midian is supposed to be like a ancient graveyard beneath like a city, if I remember that correctly. And I know there's a part in the song where I think it was Whipstick says the Midian resides underneath Lost Lake Estates. So when you learn that about Nightbreed, the song starts to make more sense. But I definitely, reading the plot for that movie, it definitely sounds like something that I would potentially enjoy. I'm a very unique juggalo, or Zooligan, if you will. I'm not a wrestling fan, and I'm not really a big horror movie fan. You know, I'm more on the, like, nerdy side of shit. Like, I still love and play Pokemon. I play Pokemon Go. You know, I'm into anime. You could probably see the set of Dragon Balls behind me. So I was never really into wrestling. I was never really into horror movies. So I'm kind of a very out of place individual in this underground scene. So, but yeah, I think that movie would be something I'd be interested in. Moving on to Nobody. This track right here, definitely a contender for my favorite track. The beat goes so hard. Everyone represents a different part of the body, and everybody killed their parts. Partial, pun intended. Or maybe full pun intended. Nobody, absolutely great. I have been finding myself here lately after work. Just for the drive home, I live like 2 minutes away from where I work. If that, depending on traffic, maybe a little bit more. Most times I'll just throw this song on and it's almost at the right length that I can make it home before the song's over or as the song's about to finish. Really love the energy behind this song. Again, everybody killed their parts. Love this a lot. My little note tablet wants to restart. We're not going to do that right now. So, love Nobody. Contender for top track. Just based on the fact that it's the one song that I'm putting on to drive home to, I might go ahead and just say it's my favorite. But move on to Pour Another, party song. I've admittedly been drinking lately. Nothing hardcore, but if I did, this would have to be the jam I'd do it to. And then, of course, my note is Whipstick stole the whole song rapping about drinking milk And then, of course, having the line in there, your mom rides my milk mustache daily. Fire. That shit, when I heard that, I was like, damn, that's a fucking dope line right there. I just thought it was extremely unique that Whipstick did that. And me 6 months ago, I would really fucked with that even more. I don't really want to elaborate on the drinking thing. I just, for the longest time, I never drank because when I was 20, I got shit-faced drunk the next day after. I was like, why did I do this to myself? And I really didn't drink anything hardcore ever since, almost to the point where I was like, I just don't need alcohol. But here lately, you know, been drinking just a little bit, like nothing, again, nothing hardcore. The little Seagram's fruity fucking drinks you can get. That's what they've been. Roast me in the comments if you want. My thing is, I want to taste something delicious, and if it's giving me a little buzz, cool. But yeah, I have been drinking. I have to admit, I have to confess. So this song, you know, it kind of is easier to vibe with now. Moving on to King of Quit. This beat messes with me. Not sure what it is about it, but it shifts the energy in a way that I almost skip this song. Lee keeps me from doing it, and then Legs shuts the idea down completely. Again, I don't know what it is about there's just something about it when it starts. Just there's such a shift. I think from going from Pour Another, kind of like party fun song, and then you kind of shift it to this. It's a weird shift. It's kind of sandwiched between two fun songs. Maybe if it was in a different order, it wouldn't have done that for me. But, you know, again, once it gets started, the idea goes away and I'm just enjoying the song. Joe Black's verse is one of the hardest verses and proves why he is my favorite member of Zool. So he talks about, like, he's nothing but a deadbeat. His life is a dead end. He's got his 2-week notice loaded in a gun. He goes to work, goes to his boss's office, and fires 2 shots into his boss's head. I quit. And initially when I listened to it, I had the thought of like, yo, he shoots his boss. Again, Chief Zooligan, he had pointed this out, and I forget which server it was in. I can't remember if it was in the actual A.X.E one or if it was in the Underground Podcast community Discord server. But he had pointed out like the flip of it, of he fires the words, like the image of him blowing his brains is imprinted onto his boss. Like he quits his job, he quits life. That's his 2-week notice. I quit. That fucking, like, coming to that realization just made that verse, that line just hard as fuck. Like, Joe Black can fucking come up with some shit, and he's crazy with it. You know what I mean? Crazy with it. So, moving along to Funeral. Interestingly placed after King of Quit, Quitting Life, and now we put the fun in Funeral. Such a fun song. The ending, again, giving the Lotus vibes, having fun in the studio, scaring each other. This energy, the energy of this album is so reminiscent of the early Family era. Again, that's what I'm talking about. They're in the studio, they're having fun. If you haven't listened to the song, if you haven't listened to the album, first of all, what are you doing not listening to the album? Go fucking listen to it. It's on YouTube. You can go listen to it on YouTube even. But at the very end of Funeral, you hear a little bit where Billy Obey comes in and he, and you hear 8 Legs, God damn it, Bill, fucking asshole. You get scared. He was in the studio, like in the recording booth, recording his verse and got fucking scared right at the end. I love that they left it in like that because it brings that energy. It brings that vibe of like they're having fun in the studio. Like this is the Family era. This is what Tales from Lotus Pod kicked off. That made, you know, I think one of the reasons why people think Tales is so epic is because of what it signified, the era that it launched and started, you know, and just the energy that they all brought on that album. And it's the same energy that I'm feeling here. And again, people are probably disagreeing with me. And if you don't get it, then you're just not going to get it. You know what I mean? You're that preppy kid in school that's just not going to understand what's so great about Dark Lotus. You're not going to understand what's so great about this album. So there's no really helping that. Moving on, Song of the Dead, another slower paced song, almost hypnotizing chorus. This song feels like an almighty outtake. The beat and vibe reminds me of that album. It definitely feels very much like an Alla Xul Elu song, just the chorus, the way that it goes on. It feels like something that could be on a Zool album. And hey, this is a Zool album. It's Lost Lake Estates. It's LLE. It's Alla Xul Elu, super famous fun time guys. So that's not necessarily a complaint. I'm just saying like the energy of it is definitely Xul. Moving on to Why You Mad, another contender for favorite track. When I first listened to the album, this song actually got crowned that title. The chorus, and the chorus had me asking, Loke, is that you? Shout out to Low Key. Listening to that chorus, that sounds like Low Key to me. And I even put that in the UPC Discord server. And the homie Robbie was like, I don't think it is, but I can see why you would think that. He was pretty sure it's 8 Legs, but the more that I listen to it, I swear to God, that's Low Key. And that's one of the first things I'm going to look for when I get my CD. I'm looking in the credits to see if he's mentioned anywhere in there, or, you know, if somebody from Xul or if somebody from Fun Time is watching, you know, Whipstick. I've been talking with Whipstick on Instagram. He reach out to me, let me know, is that Low Key? That sounds like Low Key. Or is it a sample from a Low Key song? I don't know. But, you know, just listening to that, I was like, it threw me off. I'm like, that sounds like Low Key. And if it is Low Key, that's awesome. Really fucking awesome. Because they are all actually homies from back in the day. They all came from the UPS Underground Propaganda Squad, you know, which is a really cool thing that was going for a long time. So Why You Mad? Absolutely love it. Love the chorus. Why you mad that you at where you at now? You know, why are you mad? You're at where you're at because of you. Why you mad? Who you mad at? You should be mad at yourself. Fix your shit. Make your life better. But love the energy of Why You Mad. Great song. Hang in there. This album takes a serious turn with this song. Double meaning. Hang in there when you're feeling suicidal, but also talking about hanging yourself as a way of killing yourself. The ending feels like a missed opportunity to put a serious message of hanging in there, but it was laughed off, which I ain't mad at. So the ending, like you have Lee come on and he says, this is Lee Carver from the Alla Xul Elu, and mental health is no laughing matter. Like when I heard that, I was like, yo, were they actually about to put a serious positive message out there about like mental health and stuff? Of course, that didn't happen. Again, I ain't mad at it, but it does feel like a really missed opportunity for them because they're known for being jokeful. You know, that's another energy that they bring back from the old ICP days, you know, listening to Suicide Hotline off of Malenko. Like they used to kind of be like that too. They would like, you know, it feels like an opportunity to give that serious message out there, but I am mad at it. You know what I mean? Because they're having fun. And, you know, also I think it's also a way to kind of look at like when you're feeling down, like finding that laughter. Somehow you got to find that laughter to hang in there and bring yourself out of that feeling. So it's kind of an interesting way to put it, like to really think about it. This is no joking matter, right? The way you're feeling is no joking matter. But like if you can find humor, if you can find a way to bring yourself out of that feeling, like you're gonna hang in there, you know. So that was a little interesting twist that I don't know I found in that, but it did feel like at one point like a missed opportunity. So moving on to Rec Room, not much to say here. This skit I think is a reminder of, hey, this is the theme of the album. You know, they're reminding you like this. The whole theme of this album is they're all insane and they're in this asylum. So it honestly, at this point of listening to the album, this song or skit is starting to get that urge to skip. Most time I'm listening to this, I'm driving, so I'm just letting it play through, but there is that desire to just skip, get to the next song. So moving on to Psycho Screwjob, wrestling anthem. As someone who isn't a fan of wrestling, we just talked about this. This song doesn't do too much for me. Not that I hate it, but I don't love it either. It's kind of okay. And this song here kind of makes me feel like this. It kind of shifts the album into a way of the album is winding down. So you know, Psycho Screwjob, I love it, but I don't. I love it. I hate it. I don't love it. I don't hate it. You know what I mean? Like it's just kind of there. It's not something that I skip, but it's definitely not my favorite song on the album. And this was the second single that they released. They did film it in a wrestling ring, and actually where they filmed it at was in Indiana. And when they announced that they were doing it, I did toy with the idea of going to it, but then I had to remind myself because I believe they did it the weekend before the Gathering. I was like, there's no way in hell I can travel, because I think it was just south of Indianapolis. I was like, there's no way I could make that travel and then like 2 days later or 3 days later travel to fucking Ohio for the Gathering. So There was potential for me to possibly be in that video, but I chose not to. So yeah, there's that little bit there too. Moving on to Underground, another anthem song, if you will. Keeping it underground, Buried. The hook here I really love. So smooth. And it's definitely been an earworm for me. I'm keeping it real underground beneath the dirt and worms. Because when you underground, become one with the earth. And now you underground. I love the hook. It's very catchy. Absolutely smooth. Love it. I would definitely put Underground in my top 5 as well. So that brings us to the album closer, Lost Lake Estates. This beat has this album. This beat has this. Why did I put album in there? This beat has like this delusional sound to it. I love it. This is a slower paced song to close out the album, speaking metaphorically of music as an insane asylum. They're all insane and committed to this asylum, committed to music. What can I say about it? You know, it's a good album closer. It brings everything together, and it kind of tells you what the album is supposed to be. Like, this is them insane. This is like their asylum is music. Their asylum is Long Live Evil. So it kind of brings everything together, ties a nice little beautiful bow on it. Lost Lake Estates. Honestly, I haven't really paid attention. There's kind of some skits at the end, and I haven't paid super attention to like what's being said in them to see if there's like any kind of setups or if there's any like Easter eggs in there I should be listening to. I know most of Xul's albums, they kind of have that, like hidden tracks, if you will. I just haven't really paid much attention to them, to be completely honest. That's probably something I should have done for the sake of the review, but I didn't. So if there's anybody who has anything about those tracks or about those skits, drop them in the comments down below. Educate me, educate others about it. If there's anything there at all, or if they're just kind of little closing skits to just whatever, have fun and close out the album, that's cool too. But yeah, so Lost Lake Estates, what can I say about this album? I've said it a few times. Dark Lotus energy, Tales from Lotus Pod. LLE is like stepping into like a new era. They're building the label. They've signed SON. They're heading into the second annual Night of the Xuligans, which is going down on the 27th of October. I have this funny feeling that if I don't go, I will regret it. But I am going to Fright Fest. I'm going to Hallowicked. If work provided, like my job, if I'm able to leave early that day, I'm going to try to make it tonight of the Xuligans. But if work permitted, I'm not able to make it, I know I'm going to regret it. I just have this feeling, not so much that they're going to perform the entire album, but I feel like they're going to perform songs from it. And I feel like this is going to be like Missing the Gathering, where they did the first Dark Lotus performance. Like this, that night feels like that's going to happen. So I'm having this like FOMO, this fear of missing out. If I don't go to Night of the Xuligans, I'm going to miss out on this. I just have this funny feeling. But Lost Lake Estates, it's kicking off a new era. You know, when they were promoting the album, that's what they were talking about, entering the new or the next era of Long Live Evil. This album has done that. And that, once again, that is to me what gives it Tales from Lotus Pod vibes, because Tales from Lotus Pod kicked off the family era. You know, Twisted, Blaze, ICP, they were psychopathic records. And it just took off from there. You know what I mean? The 6th came out. Green Book came out. They started doing the Psychopathics from Outer Space. Or no, they'd already done it by then, didn't they? Yeah. The first one came out in, what, 99, 2000? But you know what I mean? Like, at that point, Psychopathic Records as a label was like this bomb that was just exploding in the underground. And I feel like that's what's about to happen with LLE. They're about to just explode in the underground, which, you know, they've been making a lot of noise for a while. But yeah, I think I've rambled on very longly about this album, but it is absolutely great. Again, if you have not listened to Lost Lake Estates, go give it a spin. If you didn't care for the album, tell me down below what you didn't like about the album. Remember to be respectful. If you do love the album, tell me down below what you love about the album. What are your favorite tracks? I don't think I talked about my top 5. My top 5, like I said, let's put, I'm going to say Kill Him with Kindness, Nobody, Pour Another, Funeral, and Underground. Those are my top 5 tracks, with my favorite one being, I'm going to give it to Nobody. Like I said, it's the song that I put on for my drive home. I've got to give it that title. It's at this point, it's going to have the most listens, and going analytically by that has to be the favorite. So Nobody being my favorite. Once again, tell me down below what you like about the album. If you didn't care for the album, tell me down below what you didn't like about the album. Be respectful. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys next time.
Wow, that sounds really traumatizing.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like I'm going crazy.
Have you tried just like not listening to that album anymore?
Well, every time I don't listen to it, I keep hearing this voice in my head, this crazy voice.
A voice?
Yeah.
What is this voice saying to you?
Yo, DCFAYGOGUY versus Whipsick with Long Live Evil. Your mind belongs to us now, bitch!